When you move abroad, you are bound to experience culture shocks, and moving to Portugal is no different. It's one of the best things about moving abroad, right? You get to experience a totally new way of life and a new way of doing things. So in today's video, I wanted to show you and talk to you about some of the weird things that I have found living in Portugal. Obviously, I say weird entre aspas because they're not actually weird, it's totally normal here. It was just a cheeky catchy title, so don't come for me in the comments. But these could be really useful if you are planning on moving here, and one of them could even save your life. I'm not even exaggerating. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Liz and I created this channel Talk the Streets to be your one-stop shop for everything you need for learning practical Portuguese. But as an expat myself, I often get asked questions about why I moved here and what it's like to live here, so I do sometimes do a few videos on that as well. My video on what I wish I'd known before moving to Portugal has now been seen by nearly 100,000 people, which is crazy. So if you are considering a move to Portugal, this channel is for you. Click subscribe and I will love you forever. So the first weird thing is SENHAS. Now these are little tickets, they look like raffle tickets and they have a number on them, and they're basically to give you your number in a queue. But they are literally used everywhere. I'm talking the butchers, the bakers, the mobile phone shop, and of course all government buildings as well as hospitals and doctors' surgeries. So when the system works, it works really well, but sometimes it doesn't. If the system isn't working, it can be a real mess, and you really have to keep an eye on the electronic thing telling you whose turn it is coming up soon. Otherwise, if you go to the toilet and you miss your turn, it creates a whole nightmare. So that's definitely happened to me before. So this is a really good tip if you are doing anything in Portugal where you have to wait in a queue, then look out for the little machine that gives out the tickets, because otherwise you'll be waiting around for ages and your turn is never going to come. So the next thing is the 24-hour clock. Now this might apply across all of Europe, I don't know, but we don't really use it in the UK. So if they are talking about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, for example, they will call that 16 hours, okay? So this is really important if you are making a table reservation or any kind of booking any kind of appointment. So you need to know your numbers in Portuguese up to 23, okay? Because if they say 16 horas, and you don't know that 16 is 16 and that 16 converts to 4 p.m, you're going to be in a bit of a pickle. So make sure you practice that one. So number 3, this is a big one, okay? When there is a green man to tell you that you can cross the road, cars are still allowed to turn if there are no pedestrians. All right, so maybe I'm mad, but I'm pretty sure that you can't do this in the UK. If it's a green man on the pedestrian crossing, cars can't go past. So I will usually sail out into the road, but I have now learnt, because I've been nearly hit so many times, that you really do have to look out for cars, okay? And if you're like me and driving is all done the other way around, make sure you're checking both sides, because it can be really dangerous if you're looking in the wrong direction, okay? So this is a serious one, stay safe, and when it's a green man, be careful still. Driving and road safety is a whole other thing over here, and I actually have to learn to drive later this year. Yes, I've managed to avoid it for 35 years, but if you would like a lesson on driving vocabulary and road vocabulary and stuff like that, leave me a comment and we can probably do that later in the year. Number 4, now this confuses so many people. To be polite, the Portuguese will speak in the 3rd person. So what does this sound like? So if I am in an Uber, for example, and the driver is chatting to me and he's being polite, he might say things like, "A Liz é de onde?" or "O que é que a Liz faz?" So he's talking directly to me, but he's using my name in the sentence. Now, this feels so weird, but you do get used to it. I did actually do a whole video on how to be polite, so you can check that out. It will be linked in the description. So yeah, even after all these years, it still sounds a little bit weird to my ears. On to number 5. Have you noticed that lots of Portuguese people have the same name? Like, if you live here, you will definitely know José, João, Rui, Felipe, and then for girls we have Anna, Rita, Joana, Maria, okay? There's a reason for this, because there's actually a list of names that you can choose from to name your baby in Portugal. And there is also a list of band names, okay? So again, for us, this is kind of strange because I think you can name your baby anything you want in the UK. But this is why so many Portuguese people have the same name. So if one of the parents is foreign, this doesn't apply to you. So for anybody moving here as an expat, you're not going to have to choose from this finite list. You're actually exempt from it. But it's really interesting, and that goes to explain why so many of your Portuguese friends have the same name. Number 6 is something that I think a lot of you have noticed already, and that is that the Portuguese don't actually dub English language or any other foreign language TV and movies, all right? So originally this was actually a way of censoring foreign content because so many of the Portuguese population under the dictatorship were illiterate and wouldn't be able to read subtitles. Salazar didn't want anybody getting any crazy ideas from outside of Portugal. So this actually has a flip side nowadays, and that is that the younger generation of Portuguese people have really grown up listening to American movies and TV, for example. So this is another reason why they actually do have a really good grasp on English and speak such good English compared to, say, if you were going to Spain or Brazil, where they do dub multimedia content. It's just a really, really interesting thing, and that's the story behind it. Now you need to note that kids' TV shows and movies are dubbed, okay? So this is really helpful for you if you are actually learning Portuguese to look for kids' content. But if you are going to the cinema, you are going to need to want to make sure that you're watching the right one, right? If you want to go and listen to the Portuguese, then it will say VP next to the listing of the movie, and that means Versão Portuguesa, okay? But if you want to watch it in English, maybe your kids yet don't have a good enough grasp on Portuguese, or you yourself, and you want to watch it in the original language, which is English, it will say VO next to the listing, Versão Original. I did accidentally go and see Mary Poppins Returns in Portuguese, and it was great, but kind of less fun for me. So I hope that helps. Speaking of movies, there is another thing that I have always found really funny here, and that is that they actually put an intermission in movies in the cinema. Now, they did used to do this in the UK, but not really in my lifetime. So yeah, it was always a real shock when you are kind of halfway through a movie and then at a really random point, because they do usually do it at quite a random point, the movie just stops. They actually stopped doing this during COVID times to kind of discourage people from getting up and walking around and going to buy snacks and stuff. So I don't know if they are going to reinstate it, but it's always something that has made me giggle and been surprising to me every time it happened. Number 8. On the topic of food and drink is coffee. Okay, the Portuguese love their coffee and they will drink it several times in the day, including really late at night and after meals, which I've never really understood. So if you ask for a coffee here in Portugal, it's essentially a shot of espresso. So you want to be wary of that when you come and you order a coffee, that's what you're going to get. So if you want to learn about different types of coffee you can check out this video that I have here. I'll link it in the description. So yeah, I remember when I lived in Coimbra and we would eat dinner at our house at like 10 p.m. and then afterwards the girls would be putting on their coats and be like, oh, you coming for a coffee? And I was like, no, it's midnight. I could never understood. It's still a complete mystery to me how they were able to sleep. The other food that you're going to come across a lot here is codfish, okay, the famous bacalhau. Now, it's one of the most prominent things you are going to see in the supermarkets, literally salted and hanging up. The smell is quite something to get used to. And yeah, it's the national dish, so you are going to expect to have it at every traditional moment, and it's going to be on every menu everywhere, okay? Even like Christmas Day, they will have bacalhau. My favourite cod dish is bacalhau à brás, which is kind of with potatoes and egg. But I have actually also had a go at making bacalhau com natas with my neighbour downstairs. She does a really, really good job of it, and you can check that out in this video over here. Number 10, the last thing that I find weird here on the subject of holidays is that you can have public holidays, but like on any day of the week. In the middle of the week, on a Wednesday, for example, you can have a public holiday. Now, in the UK, we always have them on a Monday, so it makes it easier to do a long weekend, obviously with the occasional Friday, like Good Friday. So what people tend to do in Portugal is that they will just book off the other days leading up to the Wednesday or going after the Wednesday, and they call that a ponte, okay, a bridge to bridge into the holiday, and they just take off. And to be honest, I kind of love that. Relax, head to the beach, don't be all about work, work, work. It's healthy. So in conclusion, living in Portugal is awesome. I am constantly learning new things being here, and I just generally love the vibe and the people and just feel so at home here. So I hope this little tongue-in-cheek look at some of the things that are different was fun and informative for you. I'll be back next week with my usual content, a quickfire language lesson. So if you are thinking about starting Portuguese, head to the description and grab my free resources that I've put together to help you get started. I'll see you next week. Até a próxima, pessoal!